Hey guys, so I finally got the novel Poppy and Rye. This is what we started in class, but I wanted to go ahead and continue reading it. So I'm going to start back at the beginning for those who either want to start it over, can't remember, or if you want your siblings to hear it too. So Poppy and Rye, this is the third book in the series. We previously read Poppy, and we heard about her adventure through Dimwood Forest and fighting the evil Mr. Oacax, who is apparently the ruler of Dimwood Forest. And so now she is on her way to tell Rye's family, or Ragweed's family, about what happened. But we know Ragweed and Rye are brothers. Chapter 1 is called Clover and Valerian. Clover, love, you need to wake up. Something awful is happening. Clover, a golden mouse, was small, round, and fast asleep in a snug corner of her underground nest. Too sleepy to make sense of the words being spoken to her, she opened her silly black eyes and looked up and gasped. Was Ragweed leaning over her? Ragweed was her particular favorite of her 63 children. He had gone east in search of adventures, but had not been heard for months. Clover missed him terribly and kept wishing that he would come back. Her eyes focused. She could see more clearly now. Valerian, she asked, is that you? Valerian was Clover's husband. He was long-faced, lanky, middle-aged golden mouse with shabby fur of an orange hue and scruffy whiskers edged with gray. His face bore a fixed expression of being perpetually overwhelmed without knowing quite why or what to do about it. At this moment, his tail was whipping about in great agitation. Is something the matter with the children? Clover asked. She had recently given birth to a new litter, her fourth that year, and was so tired she hadn't ventured from the nest in more than a week. They're fine, Valerian assured her. But Clover, you've got to see what I've discovered. You're not going to believe it. Can't you just tell me what it is? Clover replied with a yawn. She never got enough sleep. Clover, Valerian whispered, we're in great danger. A startled Clover looked out around the nest where she and Valerian and all of their children had made a home for their 6 happy years. A small, deep, comfortable nest consisting of 3 chambers. Each of its rooms were lined with milkweed fluff. There was a family room, a master bedroom, and the children's nursery, where 13 of the children were currently sleeping. And most in the litter, 3 in number and barely a week old, were still blind and without fur. They were with Clover. Clover, love, Valerian urged, please get up. It's not the children, but it will affect them badly. With Clover, an appeal to the family never failed, and she forced herself up. The 2 mice made their way to the entry hole to the ground surface. The long, twisting tunnels had few storage rooms. One was filled with nuts, another with dried berries, and a third with seeds, built into the walls. Though Clover was, as usual, hungry, there was no time to eat. When Valerian reached the ground surface, he stuck his nose out of the entry hole, sniffed, and then gazed about. Certain there was no foxes, wildcats, or snakes, or any other danger about, he hauled himself out of the hole, and Clover followed. Tall, leafy trees, bushes, and brambles veiled in the late summer sky, a sky aglow with the light of a full moon. The air was humid, and the breeze was soft. Barks and buzzers, grunts and chirps seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at all at once. Valerian scampered down the many paths that radiated from the nest, and when he took the path, he followed a steep decline. Clover knew they were heading for the brook. The brook, as the mice called it, meandered lazily between low, leafy banks, and water lilies flowed on its wide, shallow surface. There fireflies flashed, butterflies danced, mosquitoes, like ancient instruments, droned, water bugs scooted, cattails, standing tall, swayed to the rhythms of the night. With nothing rough and dangerous about the brook, the young mice loved to frolic about the banks. Rarely was the water more than 6 inches deep. Splendid to splash in, fun to swim in. Sometimes the mice made rafts of bark chips and went boating. Indeed, there was a closeness to the brook and the serenity that caused Clover and Valerian to build their nest and raise their family where they did. That night was when everything changed. The water was muddier and deeper than it had ever been before. A full 3 feet of bare earth at the base of the pathway, the children's beach, had been sunk under water. Lily pads and cattails were gone. No bugs teased the brook's surface. Chips of wood floated here and there and everywhere. "Look!" Valerian cried in a hushed voice, and he pointed downstream. At first Clover didn't see it. Only gradually did she perceive the massive mounds of sticks, twigs, and logs that spread across the full width of the stream. "Why, my goodness," she gasped. "It's a dam. But why?" Valerian pointed to the water's edge. "What should I be looking at?" Clover asked, puzzled. "The water," Valerian whispered. "Watch." Clover stared until, with a shook, she jumped back. "Valerian," she cried, "the water is rising." "Exactly." "But if it keeps coming this fast, our home will be flooded." Valerian nodded. "Clover, love, I'm afraid the whole neighborhood is going under." But, Clover stammered, "who would do such a dreadful thing?" "Well, take a gander," Valerian urged, and this time he pointed across the water. Clover stared. At first she thought she was seeing nothing more than a floating brown lump of earth and wood. Then, with a start, she realized it was an animal swimming on the water's surface. He was a large, portly fellow with thick, glossy brown fur, a black nose, and two beady eyes. Two enormous buck teeth, brilliant orange in the light of the moon, stuck out from his mouth like chisels. "A beaver!" Clover exclaimed. Just to say the word brought understanding. Beavers had come and dammed the brook. As Clover and Valerian stared, the beaver saw them. Lifting his water-scooted head, he offered an immersed, toothy smile. "Bless my teeth and smooth my tail," the beaver called out loud. "I do believe it's my new neighbors. Hey, pal! Evening, sweetheart. Tickled pink to meet up with you. The name is Castor P. Canaan, but everyone calls me Cass. Hey," he added with another toothy grin, "you know what the old philosopher says, a stranger is just a friend you haven't met yet. As for me, I'm the head of the construction co. that's doing work here. Canaan & Co. Progress without pain. That's our motto." But you've destroyed our brook," Clover managed to say. "Easy does it, sweetheart. Easy does it." Mr. Canaan boomed with incessant good nature. "Don't need to make a mountain out of a molehill, do we? Or, for that matter," he laughed, with his belly shaking, "an ocean out of a puddle." Without saying another word, Valerian and Clover turned and fled back up the path. "Have a nice day," the beaver shouted after them, though it was the middle of the night. "And I mean that sincerely." As the two mice dashed towards their nest, all Clover and Valerian could think of, "Oh, Ragweed, please come home. Where are you? We need you now." And that's the end of chapter 1.